All right, welcome back. Practice exam number 20. Number 20 hitting us this week. Five more questions. Well, technically six. We got six more questions on this one. Yeah, I added one more. I felt like one. It's kind of easy. But let's jump right into it, shall we? Let's get into it. So, question number one: a security analyst is investigating issues with users being unable to access a secured website using HTTPS. After checking the web server logs, the following message appears. What is most likely reason users are unable to access the website? What are we looking at here? What's going on? We see a little bit of a log with an SSL certification revoked and unable to access certificate revocation list. So what then is what is our issue? What's going on here? What do you think? We're going to try and knock these out pretty quick today. I know, it's a little bit weird. Trying to get it under 15 minutes, the goal is. 15 minutes is our goal. All right, if you need more time, go ahead and pause the video. Let's see if we can answer this one. A security analyst is investigating issues with users being unable to access a secured website using HTTPS. After checking the web server logs, the following message appears. What is most likely reason users are unable to access the website? The SSL certificate has expired. It could have, right? We see it's on our certificate revocation list. Definitely something that an SSL expiration could be added to that CRL if it's expired, right? That's pretty much how it works, isn't it? B, the CRL is unreachable, preventing certificate validation. Definitely something to see there. We see the certificate revocation list. We see it's been revoked. And so definitely something that could be in play here. Is it better than A? I think it is, because if we look at the error on A, it says that the certificate has been revoked, not expired. And so I feel like A, not really part of that, right? And so we can get rid of A. Let's move on to C. The server is using an outdated encryption tool, or I should say protocol. Is that the reason it was revoked? It could be. I mean, C is a genuine concern. If our COL, our SSL was revoked, it could be because we were using an outdated encryption protocol. That is a possibility. So C, not a bad answer. And D, the firewall is blocking HTTP traffic on port 43. There's nothing to suggest that. So realistically, it really comes down between B and C. Is the CRL unreachable, preventing the certificate validation, or was the server using an outdated encryption protocol, thus causing it to be revoked? Which one is it? Is it B or is it C? I'll give you about 5 seconds to make up your mind just in case you guessed A or D. And 3, 2, 1. Well, it's obviously B. It's going to be B. The CRL is unreachable, preventing the certificate from being validated. That's going to be our answer. So why isn't it C? Why isn't it C? Well, if the server was using an outdated encryption protocol, that really doesn't come into play with the revocation of the actual certificate. That's not really something we would use. That's not why something would be revoked. That's not a genuine concern. Outdated encryption protocol would not result in a CRL error. It would result in a mismatch error. That's where we would see that. So there you go. Question number 2. Security team has identified unauthorized access to a restricted area. Upon investigation, they find that the access control logs show the use of a legitimate employee's RFID badge, even though the employee was not present. What is most likely the cause of this breach? What is most likely the cause of the breach? Using an RFID badge that the employee was not present for. What do you think? Well, if you need more time, go ahead and pause this video. We're going to move on. A, an attacker used a brute force attack to guess the RFID badge number. This is a legitimate concern. If a attacker used brute force attack and they were able to go through and gain access through the RFID system, then that is a genuine answer. That is a possible answer that we should be aware of. Is it the best answer, though? B, the employee badge was cloned using RFID cloning techniques. A definite concern. Instead of brute forcing, someone could have cloned the RFID. Again, another good answer. Is it better than A? I don't know. Is A better than B? Could be. Which one? C, the RFID I cannot talk. The RFID reader was malfunctioning, granting access improperly. Another legitimate answer that could have been in here, but I think that if it was an improper, if it was a malfunctioning, we would have seen more than one. We would have seen multiple unauthorized accesses. And so again, not something I would consider. D, the employee accidentally shared their badge with an unauthorized person. How do you unaccidentally share your badge? Explain that one to me. I'm kind of like, were they like, here, you can borrow my badge for the day? I don't like the word accidentally. And so D, not going to be a valid answer either. I think it really comes between A and B. Was it a brute force attack or was it cloned? I think those are the two best answers. I'll give you another couple seconds. What do you think? A or B if you answered C or D? Well, if you answered A, the brute force attack, I'm going to have to say you're incorrect. It was most likely a cloning attack. If it was a brute force attack, we would see signs of multiple entry attempts with failures aside from it. That would be a key indicator or an indicator of compromise associated with a brute force attack. We're not seeing that in the question. Therefore, it makes sense that it's actually B. B is going to be the correct answer on this one. Question number 3. Software developer has been tasked with making their application source code more difficult to analyze by attackers. Which of the following techniques would be the most effective for this purpose? What do we do if we're a software developer and we want to make our source code more difficult to analyze? We want to make it more difficult to analyze. What do you think? What do you think? A lot of great answers on this one. Maybe. We'll see. What do you think? I'll give you another 5 seconds on this one as we pilfer through our reasons. I like the word pilfer, even though it makes no context in this work. All right, let's start with A. Using encryption to protect the source code files. Possibly. If we use encryption to protect the source code files, is that a legitimate way to make it more difficult to analyze? I would argue that in some cases, yeah, by encrypting the source code, we could do it that way. Applying code obfuscation to hide the logic of the program. Security through obfuscation. What do you think about that one? I like this answer too. If we make it harder to understand the logic of the program, then it makes it more difficult to analyze by attackers. But is it better than encryption? Is it better than encryption? What do you think? C, compiling the code into a higher level language. I think it would actually make it easier to understand, not harder, if we did a compiler. I'm just throwing that out there, so no, not really a thing. D, adding comments throughout the source code to explain the functionality. Yeah, let's throw a how-to guide in our code. That's going to make it harder to understand. No, I think it really comes between A and B. Either encryption or obfuscation. Which one is going to provide us the better? Which one's better? Which one is more effective technique for what we're trying to do here? What do you think? Give you about 5 more seconds to choose between A and B, just in case you got it wrong. What do you think? All right. If you answered B, you would be 100% correct. So why is it an A? Well, A, encryption is usually used for protecting used for protecting data, not for source code. Obfuscation, however, is used to make code more difficult to read and thus understand, protecting it from reverse engineering. The entire reason that we use obfuscation. So the answer is obviously going to be B. It's going to be B. Question number 4. An organization is performing an audit of its hardware and software assets. What should the highest priority action be for the organization based on the report provided? We can see that we have 5 missing laptops. Oh my gosh, 5. 8 unregistered software instances and 10 devices that have outdated firmware. Oh, geez. Quite a bit of issues right there. 5 missing laptops, really. That's a lot of laptops to be missing. I mean, I can see 1 or 2, but 5? Really? It's quite a bit of missing laptops. All right, let's give you, I don't know, another 10 seconds to read through these answers. 5 more seconds, and then we'll jump into it. All right, let's answer this one. An organization performing an audit of its hardware and software assets. What should the highest priority action be for the organization based on the report provided? Let's start with A. Remove unregistered software to prevent license violations. We do see 8 unregistered software. I like this answer. I do. Especially if we have license violations. That is never a good thing. We get sued. There could be some legal issues. There should be some fines or penalties associated with it. Not a good thing. And we shouldn't be bringing unlicensed software or unregistered software into our domain anyway. B, update the firmware on outdated devices to reduce vulnerabilities. Oh, I like that one too. Definitely something we should be utilizing. Remember, outdated firmware can cause vulnerabilities. Vulnerabilities can lead to a variety of issues on our thing. So another great answer. C, locate the missing laptops to protect against potential data breaches. we do have 5 missing laptops. So yet again, another great answer associated with it. We really are tackling all 3 things identified in the report, but which one has the highest priority? And then, of course, there's D, perform a full backup of all systems before taking further actions. I don't know. I feel like A, B, and C are all ahead of D. I really do. And so it really comes between A, B, and C. Let's knock off another one. Do I want to knock off A, B, or C? I think we can knock off A. I feel like we can knock off A. Removing unregistered software to prevent license violations. I feel like, yes, the license violations are something we should totally do, but from a security standpoint, it's pretty low on the totem pole compared to B and C. So B and C are going to be our best answers. They're our front runners for this one. If you answered A or D, take another crack at it. I'll give you about 5 seconds. What do you think? Between B and C, what do you think is going to be the better answer on this one? Well, if you answered B, update the firmware of outdated devices to reduce vulnerabilities, you would be incorrect. Missing laptops. Oh my freaking goodness. Missing laptops, right? That's a nightmare. Could you imagine? Well, it depends on what type of data is on there. And that really comes into the aspect of where are the laptops? What data do they have on them? What was the sensitivity classification of the data? There's a lot that goes into there. And so 5 laptops, major issue that needs to be recognized. And so we need to locate those devices. That's our number 1 priority. Locate those devices. C is going to be our answer on that one. All right, question number 5. A company is considering implementing automation tools to reduce the workload on its IT security team. How does using automation serve as a workforce multiplier? What is a workforce multiplier? What do you think on this one? I'm going to give you about 10 seconds on this one, and then you can pause the video. Trying to speed up the videos, trying to make it so we don't have 20-minute videos. I know, sometimes you just can't help it, but sometimes you need to. All right, let's answer this one. A company is considering implementing automation tools to reduce the workload on its IT security team. How does using automation serve as a workforce multiplier? What do you think? It increases the number of employees required to manage IT teams. Would that be a workforce demultiplier? Wouldn't that be more employees? That's not what we want to do. So A is definitely not correct. B, reduces the effectiveness of the security team by relying on technology. I have never seen effectiveness of a security team reduced by the utilization of technology. I've seen new programs that they've forced on us that don't function the way they're supposed to, which makes our jobs more difficult and less efficient. But I've never seen technology by itself reducing the effectiveness of the security team. So B, obviously wrong answer. C, it enhances the productivity of the existing team by handling repetitive tasks. That's a good answer. If we can offload repetitive tasks over to automation, definitely something we would want to do. C is a good front runner. D, it replaces the need for human resources in security department. Another good answer. So between C and D, what is the better answer? I'll give you about 5 seconds on this one. What do you think between C and D? Alrighty, well, if you pick D, it replaces the need for human resources in the security department. I would tend to agree with you, but not in this case. First off, what is human resources doing in the security department in the first place? But automation supplements human resources. It doesn't replace them, right? It supplements it. And it does that by enhancing productivity, right? And that's where it comes into play. And so enhancing productivity of the existing team by handling repetitive tasks, that is like the definition of what we want to use automation for. And that makes it a workforce multiplier. That makes C is going to be our correct answer. Let's move on to our bonus question, question number 6. I know I made this one difficult. Match the appropriate security control to each of the incidents described in the logs. And so this is a typical PBQ. This is something that I would expect to see as a performance-based question in CompTIA Security Plus. We have 4 different logs. You have to identify, based on the log, what it's doing, and then you have to identify the appropriate security control associated with it. So you're probably going to spend a little bit of time on this one, right? We expect you to spend between 5 to 10 minutes on each PBQ. then it's the reading through the logs and reading through it. So obviously we're not going to sit here 5 minutes while I talk or while I pause the video and all this other stuff. We're not going to do that. So instead, I want you to go ahead and pause the video. I want you to go ahead and pause the video, and then we're going to answer it. You can unpause it when you're ready. We're going to get started. All right, match the appropriate security control to each incident described in the log. So we have number 1 right here, right? And we see on number 1, it was urgent password reset required, admin@secureportal.com. So we see that it's sent from the admin portal to jdoe@company.com. This looks like a password reset requirement. We can see email filtering, data loss prevention, multi-factor authentication, or physical access control. This one I feel could be either email filtering or multi-factor authentication. You could go either way with this one. Utilizing the password reset requirement, I'm tended to go more towards email filtering, but we really can't be sure. So let's move on to number 2. Unrecognized user. VPN login, we see a source IP associated with that. Again, we're looking at it from a different perspective, right? We're looking at it from the perspective of not only VPN, but how does it play in, right? If we identify the other 2, is it email filtering or multi-factor authentication? Well, that's the $10,000 word. And so if we're looking at VPN, I feel like that could be MFA, right? And I really feel like it has to be MFA, but we're gonna move on. I think that C is gonna be MFA. 3, right? We have our internal server, we have a destination, and then we have a data transfer. So definitely a data transfer, 2 gigabytes. How would we protect that? Well, if we're seeing a data transfer from an internal IP address to an external IP address, I tend to go to DLP, data loss prevention. And that means that we have 1 and 4 still. If assuming that 2 is C, that means 1 must be A, but does that mean D is physical access control? We can see here that we have an employee ID, we see the data center, and then the badge was used twice within 2 minutes. Well, that is definitely physical access control. And so 1 would be A, 2 would be C, 3 would be B, and then 4 would be D. Are we correct on that one? Yes, we are. A, C, B, and then D. All right, that's it for today. I'm Dr. K. We'll see you next time.